On the topic of corruption, I realised that I needed to add something in with what my sister did, which is that not only did she work at a company for a very small amount of time and then claimed maternity leave, she lost her child within like 2 months or 1 month even. But okay, she did go into some sort of long program and stuff, but yeah, technically she lost her child, hence she wasn't really on paternity leave for a huge portion of that time, because after she failed that 3 month test, she did lose full access to her child, hence she should have gone back to work, hence not get maternity leave, but she didn't say anything, and the government, the old people's home didn't do any checks to find out if she still had that child, or if the child went into, I guess they wouldn't have known, and I'm not saying that what she did is wrong or anything. I feel like I can learn through mistakes that she makes and stuff, but it is wrong, but because she's done it, I feel like I can learn from it and see how many people are doing this. If you're working somewhere for 3 months, I think it's actually wrong to claim maternity leave, because that person should have said, I'm pregnant, I'm going to be taking time off soon. Hence, they shouldn't have been given a sort of permanent role. The only reason why she was given a permanent role is because they didn't know she was pregnant. And therefore, if you're hiring someone who's 3 months pregnant and you don't know, they know that they're only going to be working for another 3 or 4 months, but you don't know that. Technically, you could say that I shouldn't have to pay maternity leave. Why? Because you've only been with us 3 months and you never told us you're pregnant. If you're going to hold back information, we have the right to break our contract and say that we shouldn't have to pay you maternity leave, because that there hasn't been enough. You shouldn't be, if you know you're pregnant and you know you're only going to be working somewhere for 3 months, you shouldn't be signing forms saying that I agree to work here for a long time. Okay, you might say that I didn't know that I was pregnant, but at the same time, I feel like there's got to be some sort of contract that says you shouldn't have to pay maternity leave if you're only working at somewhere for 3 months, because you have to think about, it's an old people's home. Huge amounts of money gets put into this, but you're stealing money of people to pay for this, and then to think that their money is being spent unnecessarily when people are taking a year of maternity leave, not actually having a baby half that time. I just, it is fraudulent, but I feel like I don't know, I feel like I don't want to defend my sister. I think it's wrong, but is this happening in the government too? Or is there other reasons why people might take time off? They might have an injury and then start claiming months and months off whilst getting full payment. The idea that people are working in it and then they get let off only for their salary to continue coming out, and for people to just not notice. I mean, this is complete incompetency, and it shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen at all. You have to make sure that the people who are dealing with payments know exactly where it's going. And I think Elon also said that a lot of the payments don't even have any sort of where this is going. This is just a payment, and that is incredibly wrong. Every time the police make a report on something, they have to have long check, which I think is over the top. You shouldn't have to have like a 5-page essay about every single thing you do. I think part of that is just going to waste your time filling out the reports. But yeah, it's definitely a good idea if huge amounts of money are coming out, even if it's only like £1,000. That is a huge amount of money if there's absolutely no reason or cause for where it's going. Where is this money going? There should be some sort of brief noting on where it's going or why. And I noticed when he was saying all this, he seemed to have a kid on his shoulders, and he seemed to be like, almost like he was loosely briefing it out, but he also, it felt like he was scared, almost like he was worried that that by saying all this, there's going to be a lot of people wanting him dead. It reminded me of Julius Caesar. He was killed, but stabbed by his group of people who he was working with, and I think it's very likely that he saw lots of corruption in this group, and this group saw him as a threat because they saw him as someone who loved the people, is going to work for the people and go and do for the people. And okay, the gladiator rings were awful, and there was a lot of sick things happening. But then again, I think a lot of people had suicidal thoughts and wanted to die, and therefore seeing people being killed like this, they wanted to know what was happening in war. They wanted to be part of it without actually being part of it, and therefore he kind of brought war to them. But if you consider the fact that all these souls were once dinosaurs, well, that's probably just their dinosaur instinct, or their animal instinct. Animals like to fight sometimes in rings, and they also had a lot of animal fighting. I think animal fighting was quite a common thing that they did, and I think when these souls started becoming human, this is where this need for fighting once. If you get a bunch of dogs and you love watching them fight, when the truth about the soul is that they evolve, and they eventually get into smarter bodies, and they're going to become human. Now, if they were animals who were taught and trained to fight, they will turn into humans who love to either fight themselves or to watch people fight. And I think this might have been bull baiting. There was the bull fighting, and what other kind of fighting as well, I don't know, but the fox hunting and stuff. There's been lots of violent traditions that people like to inflict on animals, and because they have no respect for animals, they don't realize that the reason why but by doing this, they're actually hurting the soul of the animal, because their soul is becoming far more violent. And when the soul becomes a human, it's going to still have these violent tendencies. Why? Because this is kind of what it's been programmed to be. It's what if you're a dog that's trained to kill and hunt foxes, you are basically, your owner is basically training you and forcing you to be a violent soul, a violent person with a need to fight. That's what you're being trained for. And then when you become a human, this training, even though you don't remember your past life, this training inside you is still there. And I think this is why people might like things like the gladiator rings, and I think there was quite a lot of them. So it did start off with violence. Even if you bring horses to wars and stuff, if you're a horse at a war, you might look around and see all the people at war, and have this sort of longing to one day be a human who goes to war. And so it's bad upbringing. It's all this violence and stuff. It was all spawned from bad upbringing, and people thinking that violence is fun and entertainment, and that led to the gladiator rings. But I think Elon gave them what they wanted. And I think when he started falling for the crowd and loving the fame, I think he realised that the crowd also don't really trust the government, who would have been just a bunch of rich people who hide away in houses. And I think he would have wanted to expose, or maybe even turn the people against the government. And I think the government were afraid of that, and hence why he died. And for some reason, watching this clip of him with his kid, I felt like it almost felt like a similar kind of thing was happening, only this time he's kind of using his kid to be like, hey, look, no one wants to kill someone if they've got a young child. And I just think that I don't know, but a part of me just thinks, is that the reason why he's got his kid there? Because he's trying to not hide behind his kid, but in a way make himself seem more like a friendly family guy who doesn't mean any harm, when really he might actually be exposing corruption that's real. Or is it real? I mean, the idea that 150-year-olds are getting paid, is this actually paid for things when they clearly aren't even alive? Is that the truth, or is this just him spawning up attention? The thing is, if you're working in the government or are a bit dumb, you might actually believe that things like this are happening. You're just not in that specific area, hence you're not the ones that are in control of it. Even people in the government, if the government is so big, I think even people in the government have a high tendency to not trust the other government. That's what the football pitch is about. The Democrats don't trust the Republicans, and the Republicans don't trust the Democrats. So Elon therefore can probably say a whole bunch of lies, and the Democrats are just going to be like, oh, it's the Republicans' fault, and the Republicans are going to be like, no, it's the Democrats' fault, and really it might not actually be happening at all. So I don't know what is truth and what is not. I would hate to think that people are receiving benefits when they're 150 years old, so clearly they aren't real people. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have the receipts. But I know him saying things like this is a very smart move because he's going to win over the public who are just going to believe it. Because if you hate the government and someone comes saying, oh, the government's doing this and the government's doing this, you're going to love it. It's like if you love the idea of aliens being real and then someone comes and tells you a bunch of lies about how they know it's real because they saw it and they went to this government program and they saw it, government, they knew what they were hiding, but then they got fired. And, if you someone who wants to believe lies, you will believe that. And I think the same could be said with the government, with the people and how they feel about the government. If you hate the government, you will want to believe these lies, and if you believe these lies, then you're going to be creating some sort of justice campaign to try and expose the lies. But are these actual, not, are these the truth or are these the lies? Some are. I'm sure some of these things are real. I'm sure they are spending a lot of money on shit. I have always been promoting the idea of keeping the child birth rates down. So if America have been giving huge amounts of money away for condoms, and I think that's a very good idea because it keeps the child birth rate down. But then again, if the people who are using these condoms are only using it so that they can have sex with their neighbor and not get pregnant, but they still are hoping to get pregnant with their wife or something, if that's the reason why they're using it, just so they can cheat on their wife, then condoms are not probably the best solution. It'd probably be better to educate them about how the more kids you have, the poorer you are, because you have to share your wealth. If you earn £10 a week and you have one kid, well, then you can have £6 of that, and your kid can have £4, and it's good. Now, if you have one kid, if you have 10 kids and and you only earn £10 a week, well, one, you might not be able to earn that £10 because you don't have any time, because you have to look after all your 10 kids, so you might not be able to earn that money, so you might have less money, and two, you'll have 10 kids to share that money with. I'm not saying it will be £10, but the more kids you have, the more you have to share your wealth, and the more you have to look after them, hence you might not be able to earn any money whilst doing that. So but if you educate people about that, then hopefully you will make them not want kids. But yeah, condoms are good because they help people not have kids, but if their mind is all about, no, I want kids, I just want to sleep with a neighbour too, then the condoms are not going to help reduce the population, in which case HIV would help them, because I don't know what HIV is, but I think is it a disease that kills people? I have no idea. I think it shortens life maybe, but yeah, that's not even a good thing, because then you just left a bunch of kids behind that can't look after themselves. So just not having the kids in the first place is the answer. If you think you might die when you're 30, there's absolutely no point of having a kid when you're 20, because then your child is going to be parentless at the age of 10, and people shouldn't, this shouldn't be people's life. And if you are having kids, then you're putting them in that kind of risk, in that circumstance, if you're born in a country where there's a high chance that you won't make it past 30, but it's yes.